It's officially April, and you guys know what that means. The NFL draft is less than 1 month away. And with the
Yay.
Indianapolis Colts getting set to take their next franchise quarterback, we're going to do a deep dive into every single one of them, and it starts tonight. Welcome to the Horseshoe Huddle podcast presented by Fan Nation on SI.com. My name is Andrew Moore, and I'm joined here by Drake Wally, my fellow writer and co-host here on the Horseshoe Huddle podcast. Drake, how you doing, man? I know you've got a big move coming up, so the jersey wall behind you is going to look a little bit different here by next week. But hey, man, as we were talking before the show, we're almost through with this draft cycle. Less than a month till the NFL draft.
Yeah, one of the things I wanted to do is get moved before that happened, so I'm not dealing with moving while dealing with stress. Just mere days upon before the NFL draft starts. But yeah, moving just about 20 minutes away to a nice neighborhood. But absolutely, like I told you before, I'm exhausted mentally. I'm exhausted emotionally. Damn it. And so I'm ready for the NFL draft, and I'm also ready to talk about these guys individually because each one has enough for an entire episode and then more.
Absolutely. And that's exactly why we're doing this, because each one of these guys, there's just so much to talk about. We want to make sure we give every single one of these guys their own episode to dive into the pros, dive into the cons. Do we think they're going to be a Colt? How they would fit with the Colts? Everything like that is going to be on the docket tonight and for the next couple weeks as we dive in to these quarterback prospects. The chat is ready. We've got Sky, who is here. Logan Schmidt is here. What's up, buddy? Basile is here. We've got
Basil Faulty.
Basil Faulty. See, I always get that right. Basil Faulty. Drake, thank you, buddy. And then, of course, the third member of this show, Stats Matt. Everyone is rocking and ready to go to talk about CJ Stroud tonight, our first quarterback in this deep dive. But if you haven't done so already, the ticker is telling you what to do. Go ahead and like Horseshoe Huddle on Facebook. Follow Horseshoe Huddle on Twitter at Colts on FN. Subscribe to Horseshoe Huddle on YouTube, and then hit that bell so you know whenever Drake and I are going live to discuss these quarterbacks, whenever Destin and Shad are going live. April's going to be a very, very, very busy month for us, so you'll want to check it all out. And with only 1 week till this special thing drops, make sure you go ahead and go pre-order the Indy Draft Guide. The 2023 edition of the Indy Draft Guide drops on Monday, April 10th. That's next Monday, 1 week from today. 225 prospects, I think over 225 prospects with scouting reports, player comps, and how each one of those players would fit with the Colts. So the link is in the description, the YouTube description below. Please go ahead and hit that link and get your copy because, hey, man, we've been working hard on that, and I can tell you what, it's going to be fantastic. So without further ado, buddy, let's dive into this. We're going to be talking about CJ Stroud tonight, the quarterback out of Ohio State. And I'm just going to give us a couple things here before we really dive into the pros and cons. So CJ Stroud, redshirt sophomore out of Inland Empire, California, 6'3", 214 pounds, has been the starter at Ohio State for the past 2 seasons. And in his time there, racked up a ton of awards. A 2-time first team All Big Ten in 2021 and 2022. He was a 2-time Heisman finalist in 2021 and 2022, second team All-American 2022, third team All-American 2021, 2-time the Graham George Big Ten Offensive Player of the Year in 2021 and 2022. And then last year, what a lot of people considered a down year for CJ Stroud. Look at this: 3,688 yards, 41 TDs to just 6 interceptions. Safe to say CJ Stroud has earned the right to be called one of the best quarterbacks in this draft class. So, Drake, before we dive into the pros, just give me a quick synopsis of your opinion of CJ Stroud as we sit here on April 3rd.
Well, 12 interceptions, over 2 seasons, as opposed to 85 touchdown passes is absolutely bonkers, regardless of what level, what competition. That's incredible efficiency. So efficient, I would say calm, composed, and I think he's ready to be an NFL pro. I really do. I think that he's going to hit the ground running, whether it's fast or a little bit, at a steadier pace. He's going to hit the ground running one way or another. I think he's absolutely ready. Him and Young are pretty similar, but man, CJ Stroud, the last thing is accurate. Definitely an accurate passer, and he's going to show it, I think, in his rookie year more than some people might think.
Yeah, I mean, when you're looking at CJ Stroud, you're looking at a day one starter in the NFL, and there's really no way he gets out of the top five in this NFL draft. The talent is oozing from this kid. We saw a lot of what he could do in college. There were some things that I definitely think he needs to work on, but I mean, you look at CJ Stroud, and I think you're looking at at the very minimum a very quality franchise quarterback for your team. So Drake, let's get into the pros. You kind of talked about his accuracy, and we can start out with that one. I mean, you're looking at CJ Stroud, and he's probably one of if not the most accurate quarterback in this class, right up there with Bryce Young. You turn on the tape, and I love what CJ Stroud at the combine. He called himself someone that is a ball placement specialist is, I think, how he termed it. He doesn't want his receivers to have to work for the ball. He, as a quarterback, feels like it's his job to be able to put the ball either in a position where only his wide receiver can catch that football, or he needs to put it in a position where the wide receiver doesn't have to work for that ball and can continue upfield to get yards after the catch.
Well, and that's going to be, we were kind of talking about how it applies to the Colts, and so that is something that they did not have, is they did not have ball placement on the dot. There were times where Matt Ryan, showed that, incredible accuracy that he once had. But CJ Stroud is going to hit the ground running again. I think even his first game, he's going to come out and he's going to be able to put the ball right on the money. And hypothetically, if he is a Colt, again, that's just something that they missed. And with guys that are downfield threats, and Paris Campbell, who at the time was the slot receiver, a lot of those incompletions, a lot of those drops, they were kind of bad balls. There was a lot of pressure coming, and there was just times where Ryan Foles and Ellinger would just fold. And so I think that that's going to be something, hypothetically, of course, if the Colts get him, that would be huge for them, is accurate passing.
Right. And here's something that I think as well, and you and I both saw it live at the combine. Just his mechanics and how every throw just looks so effortless. You and I talked about this when we were watching him, where it doesn't matter what type of throw it is, his throwing motion just looks solid. It doesn't look like he's trying to force everything. He looks like he's a very natural thrower of the football. But we'll get into kind of some of the cons about that as well. But honestly, man, when you're looking at all four of these guys side by side, it's hard to find someone that throws a prettier ball than CJ Stroud.
Well, and that's exactly why I think that Frank Reich, made the decision to jump up personally. But who knows why he went up there? But that's what they were watering at the mouth watching him. Is every throw just seemed like it didn't even really take anything out of him. He didn't really seem like he was even trying. Like we said at the combine, his feet planted. They moved it once. His whole body was in unison with the rest of it. Not one thing was off. It was honestly really difficult to put any bad negative notes next to his name when he was in the draft guide, or excuse me, in the combine guide. So yeah, I mean, I can definitely see why pretty much anybody that needs a quarterback in this draft would love to have that kind of ball placement.
Absolutely. And I like this. We know Chad's a huge fan of CJ Stroud. Stroud is the best quarterback in the draft. His mental is decent. His arm is dope. Accuracy great. And he's tall. Bryce Young is just as good, just a little short. And then I also saw DSG Goodbar. Good to see you. CJ Stroud will be great for us, but he's going first overall. That's where a lot of people have CJ Stroud pegged right now, is number one overall to the Carolina Panthers with Frank Reich. And we saw at the pro day, the Carolina Panthers coaching staff and front office just all over CJ Stroud, loving what he did on that afternoon. So, and that's kind of where I thought he has he's probably going to go. But then again, if he does slip, there could be a chance where the Colts do have an opportunity to get CJ Stroud. And then here's another thing that I think is one of the pros of CJ Stroud is just the type of person that he is. And you're going to hear this from us really with a lot of with if not all of these quarterbacks, because it's really hard to find any of the top 4 or 5 quarterbacks that there are any concerns with their character. Stroud, Young, Richardson, Levis, Hendon Hooker, all these guys are great kids, great human beings that have been great in the locker room, have the support of their teammates, and guys that would go to war with them in each one of those individual locker rooms for their schools.
Well, and that's just over the top of all of the athletic things that he does, with his passing and his mechanics and everything. There's team nobody wants to have the kind of locker room the Colts had last season. Okay, they just don't, and they don't want the quarterback instability, and they want to be able to look at the quarterback more times than not and say, "What do we do?" And that quarterback has an answer, and it's one guy. So I think that Stroud's also going to bring that in too. He's going to bring in stability in the locker room, and right out of the gate, he's going to, with respect from the rest of the guys in the locker room, I think he'll earn it pretty quick, and they'll start looking to him as the leader. So I wouldn't be surprised if you see a captain on his chest, or at least in his sophomore year.
Yeah, and he was a captain that final year at Ohio State, really took over that locker room. Logan Schmidt says Frank should do us a favor and let us know who he's taken for old time's sake. I mean, that would be very generous of Frank Reich, but I don't think that's one's going to
Great.
happen. And if you guys, we do have the super chat option available. If you guys want to have your question answered right away, and you feel implied or so generous to donate to the channel, go ahead and hit that super chat button. We'll make sure to give you a shout out and get you up there right away. But yeah, I mean, as CJ Stroud, you really, and this is kind of something that I really look for with these quarterbacks, because your quarterback is expected to be your leader and the guy that is going to be in that role for your offense. So you don't necessarily have to be a rah guy at the quarterback position. There are different ways to lead, but you do want to see that quarterback really take control of the offense throughout college, really take control of that locker room in different ways. It can be in different ways, I should say. And when you look at CJ Stroud, he's not necessarily a guy that's going to scream a lot, get in your face, anything like that. Very calm demeanor, but you can just tell he leads by example. All those guys follow him. The things that you've heard all of his other teammates have said throughout this draft process, I mean, it really leaves no questions about the type of leader that CJ Stroud is, and I think that's going to transition very well into an NFL locker room.
Well, and a perfect example of just stoic, quiet leadership is Aaron Rodgers. I usually don't see Aaron Rodgers over there losing his mind, yelling or anything. You'd see that from a guy like Philip Rivers. You'd see a lot of emotion, a lot of raw, just emotion, period, just outright, not ashamed to hide it type stuff. I think Stroud is going to be like I have it here in my notes, a stoic leader. He's just going to be very calm. You're going to know exactly what he's talking about from a look. He's going to have that kind of trust, I think, especially in his receivers. So again, whoever he goes to, they are going to be benefiting from so much more than just a great passer, a guy who's also willing to get better at passing in any areas he needs to.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm going to highlight this comment by Chad, and I want to preface this by saying in a later comment, he, even though it's in all caps, he was not yelling. He did say he's not yelling. See right here. Sorry, I wasn't yelling, but this is the comment I actually wanted to focus in on. We can all argue each quarterback, but ultimately it all depends on coaching. Top prospect is a bust under the wrong system. And that leads into a point that I want you to elaborate on, Drake, because this is something that you had brought up in our notes, is Shane Steichen with CJ Stroud and how that could be a possible pro. And I feel like as we go through these, we're going to have Shane Steichen's involvement in all these as a pro. But how do you think Shane Steichen and this Colts these Colts offensive coaches would be able to use Stroud and some of the things that Stroud does well to implement that into this new Colts offense we're about to see?
Well, Shane Steichen put a heavy emphasis on accuracy. Okay. Like
Hmm.
he loves himself some accuracy. So check that box. You can't tell me Cam Turner would not love to have CJ Stroud. You know, he's the new quarterbacks coach. Had guys like Murray, had guys like Newton. That'd be the best passer probably that he outright had right out of the gate. I think he probably has better mechanics than both those guys throwing. So maybe it's an easier transition for Cam Turner too, and he can hit the ground running with Stroud quicker than he did with Murray or Newton. I know you don't have the freakish athleticism or speed, but you've got what's more important still, and even in the new NFL, is accurate passing. So I think that also with that downfield offense he wants to run, you incorporate a lot of nice running elements with that three-headed attack that he's going to have. I mean, you could get some real big plays with CJ Stroud and guys like Alec Pierce. And I really think, lastly, him and Isaiah McKenzie, boy, that could be a serious threat. We're talking like, I think, pushing 60, 70 catches for McKenzie potentially.
Right. I because Stroud's the type of guy too, where he can just get the ball out so quickly, quickly on target, get it to the guys in space, and really let them go to work. I think that's we're going to see CJ Stroud do at his best to start his career is trying to get that ball out quickly and accurately to those guys in space, because that's a lot of the stuff that he did at Ohio State because of how athletic and good those wide receivers were. CJ Stroud did need to be accurate and make very good decisions with the football. And I think we've seen that because you don't see too many turnover worthy plays by CJ Stroud when you turn on the film. He did a very good job with his decision making process. But again, CJ Stroud, while he has a good arm, I wouldn't say it's going to be one of the strongest in the NFL. He has the arm strength that can make every single throw out there, but I don't think you're going to necessarily see him in an air raid type offense per se.
It'd be I think that you'd still see the vertical element, of course, but like you said, Shane
Hmm.
Steichen, he wants to mold the offense around the quarterback. And he's done
Hmm.
this and he's had clear freaking success, great success. So he's going to do that. I do think that he'll still want to throw the ball downfield, but I agree with you. I think you'd see more precision throws, maybe those shorter throws to allow, yak yards after the catch and stuff like that. So that's interesting, though. I think that with Stroud, you would see more precision, quick, boom throws, like one read, boom.
Hmm. And then here's a comment by Unboxing Mania, and I wanted to save till this point when we're going to start talking about the cons of CJ Stroud. And it asks, "Are you guys nervous of Stroud's mobility?"
Hmm.
That's definitely one of the biggest concerns about CJ Stroud is we didn't see him necessarily take off all that often or use his legs really to extend plays. And a lot of times we saw when the play wasn't in structure, CJ Stroud's accuracy dipped quite a bit, and it just thought that's the offense wasn't kept on sync. So Drake, I'm going to ask you: Are you nervous about Stroud's lack of mobility, or what it was, or at least what he showed that he didn't do it necessarily maybe enough in college?
It's such it's like really hard to be on one side of the fence with this because on one end you're thinking, as especially if you're a Colts fan, anything's more mobile than Matt Ryan and Nick Foles. So you're thinking CJ Stroud's the guy, he can run. But in reality, I don't think that he ran enough in college. There really wasn't a lot of plays where he needed to. So I do think that he showed when he had to run, though, he could make those plays with his legs. He really could. Now the big question is, can he make that at NFL speed? You look at guys like Levis, check. He's going to be fine with NFL speed. You got guys like Richardson. Duh. Bryce Young is probably also going to be fine because he's going to need to work like Kyler Murray and avoid hits rather than taking him. So he's going to have mobility. That's the biggest question mark for CJ Stroud. The other guys, you're like, nah. Even Hendon Hooker, you're like, he'll be fine. But I think that the big question is, will he move that quickly at NFL speed? Will it be able to at least get him away from pressure, kind of like Joe Burrow does, with a little bit of nice savvy footwork? I would go on the side of I think that he'll be fine. I do think that he's more athletic than people give him. I'm just having to take a side here. And I do think that it would be something that if it's, what I'm thinking it is, it could help the Colts a little bit because he'd be, again, more mobile than both of the pocket passers they had last year.
Yeah, and I there's an old saying that scouts use. I've heard Daniel Jeremiah say this quite often, that if a guy shows you that if a guy shows you that he can do it once on film, he can do it. And I think that kind of goes hand in hand with what my opinion of this is. Am I concerned or nervous with CJ Stroud's mobility? No, I think it'll be just fine as far as him being able to do things with his legs, being able to escape um, to be able to really some extend plays. What makes me maybe just a little bit nervous, is how consistent can he be at doing that? As we our professional scout here, Logan Schmidt said he's mobile enough, and Chad says he was mobile in that Georgia game, and that's kind of what I'm talking about, against the best defense in college football last year on the biggest stage, the college football playoff. CJ Stroud had arguably the best game of his career. He was being able to evade the rush, keep his eyes down the field, while being able to run out of a messy pocket and deliver accurate balls to his receivers down the field, and for touchdowns. He made some of the best plays in college football last year in that Georgia game. And again, like you mentioned, the speed of the NFL is going to be better. There's going to be better athletes, but when you're looking at the closest one-to-one comparison from an NFL defense to a college defense, last year was probably Georgia. And I would say hands down, because they were the best defense in college football. So it's going to be interesting to see if he can do that consistently. Now, he's probably not the type of quarterback that you want to try to move the pocket for, and things like that, because that's really just not his game. But at the same time, when the play breaks down, can he do it consistently? And yes, we can talk about, yes, we saw it on film, but I think until he proves it in the NFL, and all these guys have stuff that they need to prove at the next level, but until he proves it consistently, there's still a lot of people out there are going to raise that same question.
Well, and I just to throw this out there, I looked at his college stats now. In 2020, he had one attempt for 48 yards and a touchdown. Now, obviously, that was a huge highlight. But then it was 32. It's interesting. It goes 32 carries in 2021 for negative 20 yards, and then last year 47 carries for 108 with only one touchdown. So it's like they didn't even use him with sneaks, at the goal line or anything like that. So I mean, he's pretty raw when it comes to having to show his legs and if it's enough. So that might be that regardless of where he goes, it's going to be very interesting to see when he's pressed to have to use that against an NFL caliber defensive end that's running at him from his blind side, if he can actually get away.
Yeah, and then kind of compounding off of that, maybe not the lack of mobility is the biggest question mark for Stroud. Possibly the biggest question mark is how he can handle pressure.
Yeah.
Because I mean, the muddy pockets in the NFL, you're not going to have those clean pockets that you had at Ohio State for most of your time there. You're going to have muddy pockets, and you're going to have pressure all around you. Now, he showed he could handle it against Georgia, and again, I think it comes back to this, the consistency. Can he do it consistently at the NFL level? Because historically, when you're looking at his games throughout Ohio State, throughout his 2 years as the starter there at Ohio State, when he got pressure right up in his face, and pressure came on, he didn't do his best. I mean, the accuracy dropped, the completion percentage dropped. When you look at it on film, he did a lot of weird things where he would try to spin out of things, and especially moving to his left, he wasn't able to complete a lot of passes. So that's going to be something that he's going to really have to overcome and prove, is that can he really step up when there's pressure in his face, and it's not just a clean pocket for him to operate in. He's going to have to be able to operate out of structure.
Well, and that's where you would hope that an entire offense, or excuse me, an entire offensive staff like Steichen, who's a molder of quarterbacks, and then Cam Turner has dealt with some very raw talent, and then you've got Jim Bob Cooter, who helped Trevor Lawrence ascend to a new level of success. So you've got three guys that are really equipped, I think, with experience and success and proven, results to mold a guy who might struggle with a little bit of pressure. He might struggle with a little bit of rolling out to that left side, that weak side, if you will. And it's like, hey, that's where you would just hope that that group of coaches could mold a guy like Stroud and just kind of drop that struggle that he's had with pressure.
Right, and I think this is where quick passes comes into it. Is
Yep.
you don't necessarily want CJ Stroud taking 7 step drops and waiting for and having long developing plays, because when you have those longer developing plays, you aren't necessarily going to uh be afforded the clean pockets in the NFL that you're going to be afforded in college. You're going to, if you want those clean pockets, you're going to need a quick passing offense, like a West Coast style offense, where you're more trying to get the ball out quickly to your receivers in space and kind of letting your receivers go to it. Now, and that's not to say that CJ Stroud can't hit the deep ball. I'm not saying that, because seeing him live in person, he's got, again, one of the prettiest deep balls in this class as well. I'll die on that hill. But as far as if you're really concerned about his ability to handle pressure, you're going to have to keep him clean, and that starts with getting the ball out quickly, scheming up ways to really get it into the receiver's hands in space and let them go to work. And then when that pressure backs off a little bit, that's when you can take some of the shots or get some play action involved to try to neutralize that pass rush in a sense. There's a lot of different things that you can do to, again, accentuate CJ Stroud's strengths and put him in the best position to succeed. It's not going to be it's not something that is going to have to be forced, because CJ Stroud can do a lot of different things well. And since we are a Colts podcast here, we're talking about Shane Steichen. Shane Steichen always says, I mean, you take the offense and you tailor it to your quarterback strengths and to your personnel strengths. So if the Colts did draft CJ Stroud, that's something that I could see early happening as well, when you're trying to get your young quarterback into a rhythm. And hey, quick passing game also helps out the offensive line to not have to hold up as much either. And we all know that this Colts offensive line is in the process of trying to get their confidence back and trying to get back into, or trying to reach the potential that we saw just a couple short years ago.
Well, and you would think that even with, like, let's remove the rookie quarterback conversation, Steichen's probably going to come in and at first get the run game going, allow play action, and get the ball out quickly, just so that the offensive line can perhaps get a couple games in where they have continuity. They maybe don't allow all the freakish amount of pressures and sacks. Now factor in a rookie quarterback, and you can't help but think that Steichen would at least try to ease this guy in and not say, hey, it's time for vertical explosive throws all day, every day, like we did with the Philadelphia Eagles last year. I think they led the NFL in deep throws. So it's like, that's probably not going to be what you're going to see. But needless to say, though, you do have guys like Pittman who can pretty much, I think he's shown he can be the do-it-all receiver. He can be the down the field guy, the short yards guy, possession guy. He just struggled with drops. But then you got Pierce, who's the downfield threat. But that's why I think Isaiah McKenzie, Andrew, I think he's going to have a good year, because regardless of who's taken, especially if it's Stroud, somehow you're going to see him get a lot of quick throws out of the pocket.
Yeah, and we talked to Isaiah McKenzie. He's really excited to get to work and be put in a position to help this Colts offense in any way that he can. Whether it is quick throws, whether it is a deep threat, whether it's on end arounds, jet sweeps. Isaiah McKenzie is ready to go out there and do it all, and that's why I think he's going to be, like you said, he's going to be such a versatile weapon for Shane Steichen in this Colts offense. Excited to see what he's going to be able to do. And then this one is one that I hadn't really thought of. Well, I guess I had thought about it a little bit, but it's something that it's an interesting point that you brought up, Drake. And I like addressing this because I see a lot of people on Twitter ask the same question. Is talking about Ohio State quarterbacks and their transition to the NFL. I know a lot of people out there think that just because you're a quarterback, you went to Ohio State, you're not going to do as well in the NFL with the history. I'm not a subscriber to that fact, because you could apply that to literally every single quarterback pretty much throughout history, and it's going to be the same thing because there's not a necessarily a quarterback factory like you say. Oh, this school like Ohio State produces the best wide receivers, or this school produces the best cornerbacks year after year. I mean, there wasn't any good quarterbacks at Tennessee that came out of Tennessee until Peyton Manning. I mean, name a really good quarterback out of Michigan until Tom Brady. What about Texas Tech and Patrick Mahomes? It's all different. You can't really correlate the two. So, but I think that's something that a lot of maybe more fans ask is how is will CJ Stroud kind of fall into that same bucket of really good Ohio State quarterbacks that seem to flame out once they get to the pros, or is he going to be able to overcome that? What do you think?
See, I think that he's actually the most polished passer that I've ever seen come from OSU. I really do. I feel like he makes everything look so smooth. Every throw is just so effortless. It's just so whatever. Next throw. He's just so calm, so collected. I'm not saying that there haven't been other incredible talents from OSU. But you've got one guy like the last big name was Justin Fields, and he can run like a gazelle, but he struggles with those passes in the NFL with some accuracy. Then you got a guy like Stroud who comes from the same school, by the way, and he isn't a runner, and he's a pocket passer who is a ball placement specialist that needs to work on his mobility. So it's like you're absolutely right. It's never this. It's very hard to apply that to CJ Stroud, but I'm telling you, I really believe that he is the most polished passer I've seen come from OSU.
Stats makes a great point that most college quarterbacks have the adjustment of play calling in the huddle because in college they don't have headsets in their helmets.
Ooh, that's a
That's a
good
good
point.
point too. It's a
Yeah.
good point too. That things are just done differently in college. There's an adjustment for everything. And stats Matt with the breaking news here that it was just announced that Will Levis will have his workout Thursday with Indianapolis in Lexington. The Colts have been out in California today working out with CJ Stroud and Bryce Young because, and again, this is the way that the Colts are really wanting to do this. I mean, you talk about the big guys are at the pro days and everything. Chris Ballard hardly ever goes on pro days. Shane Steichen obviously didn't think it was important enough to go on pro days. They send their scouts for the pro days, and where they really glean the most information isn't at the pro days when they're fighting with other scouts. It's when they get their private workouts with these guys, with where it's just one on one with CJ Stroud, Bryce Young, Anthony Richardson, Will Levis. They're Hendon Hooker. They're meeting with all five of these guys and holding private top 30 visits with all five of these guys. That's where they're going to get the most information, sitting down all day with that quarterback, learning about him as a person, seeing how he operates, everything like that. And then that's how they'll get their board. So this is if you want to talk about the importance of the Colts being at pro days, yes, there is some significance of who they send, but the meat of what they're going to find out about these quarterbacks is at these private workouts. So that's going to be something to watch over the next couple weeks as the Colts finalize their draft board. But Drake, we've gone through the pros, we've gone through the cons, so let's answer the big question. And I want everyone in the chat to answer it as well. Will CJ Stroud be an Indianapolis Colt? Well, first of all, do we think he will be an Indianapolis Colt? And then secondly, we're going to say if he is available at number 4. We'll just say number 4. We're not going to talk about trade ups. If he is available there at number 4, do the Colts take him?
No, not at all. I think he's going to be gone. I think Frank Reich. I think Frank Reich looking like a dad. Just taping the son he loves, throwing the old football in the backyard with his phone. Looking like a dad out there. I think Carolina has wrapped it up. I think they're definitely going to get CJ Stroud now. He's also made some comments that he really liked Anthony Richardson. Okay, so let's say that out of nowhere, boom, Anthony Richardson's a Carolina Panther. Okay, I think something like that, or if they took Young, I don't think they take Levis. I think that it's either going to be a huge like wild card on Richardson, or they're going to go get Young. And I definitely think that if he's available, the Colts would be. Even though I'm a Richardson guy, it's like I think Steichen won't be able to resist that kind of accuracy. I think he would. I think they would take him.
Yeah, I just and look going through the chat here.
Got a
It's
lot of
pretty much
comments.
no. All the comments, it's no. He will
Jeez.
not be there, and I would agree. This is kind of what I've been hearing, what I've been saying since the Panthers made that trade way back after the combine was over. That Frank Reich loves CJ Stroud. There might be some other people in that building that like Bryce Young a little bit more, might like Anthony Richardson a little bit more. But at the end of the day, the Carolina Panthers, I mean, you could, whether it was smoke screen or not, some of that you can't fake. And the Carolina Panthers really love CJ Stroud. I fully expect CJ Stroud to be the number one pick in the NFL draft at the end of this month to go to the Carolina Panthers. However, if we see pigs flying, and hey, there was tornadoes in Indiana, one that actually went right behind my backyard on Friday night, so that was pretty wild. So something like that happens again, we see pigs fly, and CJ Stroud isn't taken before the Colts pick at 4, Chris Ballard should run up the cart. I fully believe that. CJ Stroud is my quarterback 1 in this class. He has been throughout this process. I put this out on Twitter, but I'll kind of give my comps right now. High end, and I think if CJ Stroud reaches his absolute ceiling, he's going to look like prime Texans Deshaun Watson. And I'm not talking about the person that Deshaun Watson is. I'm talking about strictly what he did on the field there.
Great player. He was
incredibly accurate, a leader in the locker room, a guy that continuously shows up, makes plays with his legs. However, if he doesn't, the absolute low comp for me is for CJ Stroud, Tua Tagovailoa with a stronger arm. Not as mobile, just doesn't operate well out of structure. But even if he hits the middle of what he's capable of, and I think for his middle comp, for me, Dak Prescott. He's a guy that he's probably not going to be able to carry a franchise around him. He's going to need some higher end guys, need some help, but you're going to have a quarterback that you can depend on, a guy that's going to be accurate. He's going to be able to get it to his receivers, and he's going to be able to lead a high powered offense. And I think he could be, because I would consider Dak Prescott probably around the 10 to 12th best quarterback in the NFL. I think with CJ Stroud, if he even hits that middle ground, it's probably what you're going to have, someone that's around the 10th to 12th best quarterback year in and year out. So it's going to be interesting to see. Like I said, as of right now, if the Colts did have the opportunity, for me, run up the card for CJ Stroud, but I fully expect him to go number 1 to the Carolina Panthers. So let's look at some of the comments here. Stats Matt says if he's at 4, yes, take him. No chance he is there. Chad says if he's available, yes, we take him. Marvin Fox also said no brainer if he is there. Let's see here. I wanted to highlight a couple more. Saul asks, what about Anthony Richardson with the Colts? Well, next Monday is when we're going to be doing the deep dive into Anthony Richardson. So we will dive through all of that at that time. DSG Goodbar says Stroud comp for me is Joe Burrow. That's an interesting one because I did think about Burrow a little bit. Stats Matt says low end is Jared Goff. Definitely have seen that a lot, and that makes a lot of sense. I would really agree there. Unboxing Mania says I've already heard some comps of Tannehill. For me, that would be about the middle ground for Will Levis is Ryan Tannehill. And then Quentin asks, who's going to be on Thursday? Bryce Young. We will be covering Bryce Young on Thursday, everyone. So you make sure you check that one out. But before we get out of here, we've got a couple more things we want to talk about here because, hey, guys, we thought the weekend was going to be nice and chill. There wasn't going to be anything to talk about. And then the Colts on Friday afternoon said, hey, let's make a couple of signings. Let's make a couple free agent splashes here. Or I don't know if really they can be called splashes, but hey, they weren't just sitting there twiddling their thumbs. They actually added some people to the roster. So Monday afternoon, the first one that happened was that the Colts signed former Titans and Bears running back Darrington Evans. He's a guy that's been in the league for 3 years at Appalachian State. Had a lot of hype around it. Was a 3rd round pick of the Titans, but he really just hasn't been able to find a role. He's had some injury luck or some bad injury luck over the past couple of seasons. And again, just really hasn't been able to find a steady role. So Drake, I'm going to ask you, do you think Evans is going to find that role here in Indianapolis, or what do you think we can expect out of him?
Well, I think that the Colts are probably going to take a day three running back, maybe like a scat back type receiving back, elusive guy. Maybe I mean, maybe Evans can make the roster, but I think if he's going to make an impact, it could potentially be on special teams. And I do say that because he's got special teams experience returning. Um, Maybe he could get that third down back position from a rookie or Deion Jackson. I don't know though. I think if he's going to make an impact and really stick out, it'd have to be on special teams because that running back room after the draft could be a little more crowded.
It very well could, and or this could just mean that, hey, maybe the Colts aren't targeting a running back in the draft.
Good point.
Could also, but again, they, as we've seen over the years, they don't need to draft a running back to add one to the roster. The Colts love to add undrafted free agents at the running back position. But no, I think he'll compete with Deion Jackson. I think as of right now, you can't really expect him to do anything more than that because those top two, Jonathan Taylor and Zach Moss, pretty much have those locked up. But we'll see if he can be a receiving option with the Colts down the line. And then the Colts made another signing after Darrington Evans. It was tight end, former Texans and Cleveland Browns tight end Pharaoh Brown. Now, Pharaoh Brown is a guy that he's been in the league. I think he has 5 seasons, only has 51 catches for 400 some yards and 2 or 3 touchdowns, if I remember correctly. I don't have it right in front of me. But where Pharaoh Brown really stands out, the running game. He is an exceptional blocker, has been a blocking tight end for most of his career. Drake, what do you think of this move?
So, I mean, on paper, it's just you kind of like say, okay, they had another tight end. But like you said, this is a huge addition because they lacked blocking at tight end. And you didn't really find out if Jelani Woods could block because he wasn't on the field enough to really show you. And Kylan Granson's more of the runner. He's more of like the slot type of tight end. So you're looking at a healthy Andrew Ogletree. You're looking at now Pharaoh Brown, who has he has more NFL experience than it seems. He's been in the league since 2017. So he's been there, done that. He's also huge, so he could be a big red zone target already there with another freak athlete in Woods and Ogletree. I mean, you've got some serious towers at tight end now. But I think it also it's very significant because Mo Alley Cox, it seems like they might be kind of saying, hey, we had Ryan Kelly and Mo Alley Cox, open. We were telling teams, hey, what are your offers? They took Kelly and said, hey, you're ours, but they kind of left Cox out there. It didn't say anything about him, which for me, I was waiting for them to like either pick a guy in the draft or sign someone. And as soon as they signed Pharaoh Brown, I was like, man, that's got to be it for Mo Alley.
Right. And yeah, that's kind of when as soon as we saw this signing, I had messaged you and I said this very well could be the end of Mo Alley Cox in a Colts uniform. I even wrote about it today. So if you haven't seen that already, go ahead and go to horseshoehuddle.com and check that out because I go in depth on everything that the Colts are wanting to do at the tight end position and financially everything like that. But with Pharaoh Brown in play, I mean, number one, it definitely helps that running game where something that was desperately in need of some help at the tight end position. Because when you lose a guy like Jack Doyle, who is one of the best blocking tight ends in the league, I mean, it really hurt the Colts last year. And Mo Alley Cox coming in, he had his worst blocking grades of his career according to Pro Football Focus. Just was not able to really seal off those blocks that Jack Doyle could so easily that would spring Jonathan Taylor for a huge game. The Colts love Jelani Woods. They want to get him on the field as much as possible. I think Jelani Woods could even play a little bit inline sometimes, not necessarily always being in the slot or out as a wide receiver. But Jelani Woods showed you that he has Pro Bowl level potential at tight end. And when you have a player like that, you want to be able to get him on the field as much as possible and utilize that 6'7", 261-pound frame that can run a 4.6 140 and run over everybody on the other side of the football. Kylan Granson as a receiver could use some more snaps. Like you talked about, Drew Ogletree will be coming off of that ACL tear, and he was a guy that was making plays literally every single day in training camp. The Colts are really high on him. They've already said, hey, Ryan Kelly will be back, but anytime you hear Chris Ballard Shane Steichen talk about the tight end group or talk about the pieces on offense, Mo Alley Cox is never mentioned. He just isn't. And so I would think that Mo Alley Cox would either the Colts can save money if they cut bait with Mo Alley Cox. They're probably going to wait till after the draft if there is a move, try to capitalize on a team that maybe didn't exactly get one of the tight end prospects in this loaded tight end draft class. And if that's the case, you move on from Mo Alley Cox. You bet on your young tight ends and you see what that group can do. So, but it really does seem like Mo Alley Cox's days as an Indianapolis Colt are numbered there. But that's our show for tonight, guys. Appreciate everyone for joining in, talking CJ Stroud with us. It was a lot of fun. Like I said, on Thursday, we're going to be doing the same exact thing with Bryce Young, and we're covering all 5 of the top quarterbacks in this draft class before the big day at the end of April. Shout out to, I saw Wyatt Law joining us here, signed another tight end later on the Colts practice squad, and Jalen Watermeyer. Watermeyer is more of a project. I think he can stay on the practice squad, but we'll see what he can do. But shout out to CMDSR, Soul, Unboxing Mania, Stats Matt, Quentin, Basil Faulty 241. I got your name right this time. Truitt, Sky, Joshua Cook. I think I already mentioned Quentin, but Quentin again. Logan Schmidt, Marvin Fox, Chad, all of you guys, thank you so much for joining in on our show. You guys are what make it so much fun, and we really do appreciate all of your support. If you haven't done so already, please, we really appreciate it if you go give us a follow on all the things. Go ahead, like Horseshoe Huddle on Facebook, follow at Colts on FN on Twitter, subscribe to that YouTube channel, and hit that bell so you know whenever Drake and I are going live. Destin and Shad have an episode coming out on Wednesday that you're not going to want to miss. It's a busy time here at Horseshoe Huddle, and Drake is in the middle of a move. This man is grinding still writing away. So Drake, tell the people what they can find on horseshoehuddle.com that you've got posted.
So it just came out today. I was interested that Morocco Brown, I believe he's the director of collegiate scouting for the Indianapolis Colts, was only at Anthony Richardson's pro day. And so I'm go read that piece, because it's always interesting wherever Morocco Brown goes. It seems that those guys get picked. But the one that's going to be coming out is the top 3 needs for the Indianapolis Colts based off of a PFF piece.
Awesome. Yeah, Morocco Brown, the third in command with the Colts as the chief personnel executive. You want to wherever he goes, you want to pay attention. So, and I already mentioned, go to horseshoehuddle.com to look at my piece on why Mo Alley Cox is a prime trade candidate. I dive into everything I just said with more detail, and there's some extra things in there that you'll want to read up on. And then my next mock draft was supposed to drop on Monday. It's actually going to drop on Friday. So after our Thursday episode, that next morning, be sure to check out my newest mock draft. It's going to be a fun one. I think people will really, really like it. So if you haven't done so already, of course, I'm going to shout out my guy Drake here. Go ahead and go follow Drake at DWalsterDrake on Twitter. You can follow me at Andrew Moore NFL, and we will be back, like I said, Thursday night to talk Bryce Young and dive into the pros and cons of the Alabama quarterback. But until then, have a good one.